Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Arroyo, and we have Nayland online. We are EFFORT EFVT Team, and we're going to talk about the installation and maintenance guide. So first, we have created a document with all the things you need to set up the environment. So here, if you click that link, you will see that we have an EFFORT setup guide. So first, what you have to do is first download Windows Remote Desktop. We have a document that will link in the video description, so you can see how to download Microsoft Remote Desktop, and you follow the tutorials and to set up the environment, your desktop, your virtual machine, so that you're able to run the project. So follow the instructions. So once you've done that, the next step is to install Chocolatey. So you click on this link, and it will take you here, and you have to run this command. After you've done that, then you type in Choco to make sure you have it installed. Once you've done that, then you can then download Redis. So you do Choco install Redis 64, and that's how you install Redis. Then you can also install Git using Choco install Git. Next thing you need to do is then download SQL Server 2019, which is here, and you can then just download the developer. And once you've done that, you can then go in and download SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio. This is going to be used for your databases. So then you just go ahead and click here, downloading this. And then Postman. This is for other teams, mainly maybe teams outside of EFVT, where you may need to test any API calls, anything like that. So you can then download here. And then for this project specifically, we use Visual Studio Community 2017. So go to this link, and you have to make sure you're using 2017. So I think if you go, maybe scroll down. Or maybe you can just Google Visual Studio 2017. That should give you the right link for the community version. And then the next thing we have to download is .NET Core 2.20. It's very important to download the right version. You have to scroll all the way down to version 2.20, which is this one right here. So make sure to download this for your Windows, whichever, 64 or 86. And then once you've done that, you can then download MetaTrader 5 for Windows. Download that, and then after that, this is all the environment tools that you need for the development. And then you need to clone the following repos. Specifically, we'll be using, you should download these or clone on these, but we mainly use as EFVT. We use the web API. This is the one that we modify the most. And then you could just do a git clone or just download this. And then we also use the VPS to run the project as well. And you can clone that, do a git clone. And you can also clone this project as well. And yeah, so once you cloned all the projects, then I'm going to hand it over to Nayland so that he can talk about some of the things you have to change and how to get the project running locally.
Yep. So hey everyone, I'm Nayland. I'm going to share my screen to continue on in the document. Can you see my screen, Stephanie?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Before moving on real quick, I just wanted to mention about this repo, specifically the MQL data folder MQL5. When you clone the repo, there's this README that talks about cloning this repository for the first time. Go ahead and follow these steps inside it to clone the repo. Whereas for these other two, the VPS Web API and the Web App and Web API, you can just go ahead and clone them in a directory like Specifically, here we mentioned to not put it under, like, try to put the repo under your C drive, because if you're using a Windows VM from the FIU SCIS, if you put it on your Buffalo drive, you end up getting some error. So try putting it in your C drive. Moving on, for the data migration, basically to run the project locally, you need to have a local instance of your database. So I'm going to go through the steps that you need to take to set up your database locally. Here I have my VM, and the first thing I'll do is the data migration, like I mentioned. So you can see in Visual Studio, I have opened up both the EFVT VPS solution and the EFVT solution. To open these up in Visual Studio, all you would do is click Open and Project and /Solution. And what you can do is you go to, for me, I have it on this PC, the C drive, users, my user, and then I created a folder called Senior Project, Web App and Web API, and then you go and find the solution. So then you click on the solution, click Open, and you do the same thing for the VPS one as well. From there, what you need to do for the data migration is set the startup project to be Web API. Web API, and then you want to open up the package manager console. So that'll be here. If it's not there, then what you can do is, I believe you can just click search package manager console. Yeah, and it shows up there, so you can open that up if it's not already open. And then once you have the package manager console open, you want to set the default project to be data access. From here, all we simply have to do is do an update database, but update database. Before we click enter, we want to set some things up. So basically, our app settings.json in both the EFVT project and the Web API project point to the staging server database. So what we want to do is point to our local host. So here we'll comment out this first line, which sets our server, our SQL Server to localhost. And we want to comment out the srproj-EFVT server. That's all we have to change for the app settings.json in the Web API. But we also have to make a change to the app settings.json, like I mentioned, as part of the EFVT project. So this is this one. And here, what we want to do is comment out, uncomment this service URL and comment out this service URL. So basically enable the localhost URL and disable the staging server URL. The next thing we want to also do is change this from srproj-EFVT to localhost. Once you have this set up, there's only one other step you need to do. In the EFVT project, there's a startup.cs file. There is some code here that we want to comment out, and it's related to the Stripe service. So here, everything from line 92 to line 105, or in fact, even 106, we can go ahead and comment that out. This needs to be investigated by some team, but for now, we've just been dealing with it by commenting it out. So you can click up here to do comment, or you can do Control K, or you can manually go in line by line and put those double forward slashes. So once you have that, go ahead and click save.
Wait, before you update it, make sure to open up your SSMS.
Sure.
And show the database there.
So here I opened up my SSMS. I'm gonna show like what happens when you first open it up without, like, maybe for your first time. So you'd want to click connect and database engine. Some of you might already have this the first time you open up like this thing. So you want to put in your server name. Here, in my case, because I'm using the SCIS VM, my computer or server name is SSP22. You can find it another way. I believe you can do, there's a command for your command prompt that will help you find your server name or computer name. But in my case, it was SSP22. We want to keep the authentication as Windows authentication. I know some other people tried manually putting in their user, like with this, but they ran into some errors. So we want to just keep it as Windows authentication for now, and we'll click connect. So this will connect to the SQL Server instance that's running on our VM or computer. And you can see under databases, we don't have the EFVT that we need. If you do, and you're doing this for the first time, you can go ahead and delete your EFVT from SSMS. And then what you want to do is here, we'll just go ahead and click enter. And that'll take a minute. I'm just checking really fast that I went through all the steps that I wanted to show. So I did do the appropriate, I set the startup and the data access projects. I changed the app settings. We changed the startup file for the Stripe stuff. And I showed my SSMS to show how to connect to it. So once we do the update database, you'll see that it's doing some stuff. What it's basically doing is in the data access project, there's this folder called migrations. You will learn more about migrations when you like have to make any entity changes. So here we have this entity or this migration from 3.13.2020, and basically this is some migration that initializes our database for us. And I can show you how, when you do an add migration, how it updates the database. I'll just let this do this thing first. So you can see that it went ahead and finished. And if I click refresh, we now see that there's the EFVT. It has the tables that we need to start up our project in its current state. But I noticed that in our folder here, we only have this one migration. Throughout this semester, our team and other teams made changes to entities and the project in general. So we had to create a new migration to update the entities in our databases. So what I want to go ahead and do is open my Git bash. I'll cd into this C:. I want to basically change directories all the way to my senior project or my repo. So I'll go to users, my user, senior project, and then effort, web app, and web API. So because the code I have on develop isn't the latest code, I want to do a git pull. It's saying that I have some changes here, and that's these changes. So really quickly, I'm going to undo these changes so that we can pull the latest changes that are on the develop branch to my local environment. So we'll do a git pull origin develop.
Also, when you download or clone the repo, make sure to switch from master into develop so you can get all the latest changes that we've made.
Yeah. So all the stuff that's shown on the staging server is on the develop branch. You can see now when I did a git pull, all these new migrations came up, and it adds on top of the 3.13 migration. So basically, a migration is kind of like an incremental change to the database that allows developers to make changes in their entities. So when there's a new migration, all you have to do is now do just an update database. So what this will go ahead and do, our latest migrations have some new changes, as well as these migrations will go ahead and load the stored procedures that we need to run the project. Otherwise, we would have had to do that manually. So I'm giving it a minute to run, and oh, so here I realized I forgot to change the default project again to data access. Let me go ahead and try that again. Okay, let me see if that worked, because it said it did not apply any migrations. Oh, okay. So I realized what the problem was here. This is related to, again, I mentioned how we have the startup and app settings. What was happening right now is we were trying to update the staging server, but the staging server already has these changes. So to do our own, I'm just going to comment out whatever we had and make the changes that we had originally. So this is not related to updating the staging server, but the things in the app settings are. So let me just go ahead and save this. Like I mentioned, uncomment this one and comment that one out. And then here, we do the same thing. So now, since we've done that, when we do an update database, it should try to apply these new migrations into our database locally. And you can see that it's already started. It'll take maybe a minute or two, but we'll go ahead and let that run.
Meanwhile, maybe you can start opening up the command prompts to.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So I'll also really quickly talk about the troubleshooting if you have any issues in this part. And then we'll move on to starting up the project locally, which was the command prompt stuff. So basically, we wrote down some things here. If you get a build failed, sometimes that happened to us initially. And what we found that helped is if you go in the Solution Explorer and type in assembly, there might be some assembly files that are interfering with the build for whatever reason. So you can go ahead and delete those. And then you have to just redo steps 1 through 5. It should be here. And then if you're facing this deps.json not found, this is related to how I mentioned before. You want to clone the repo to your C:" directory rather than leaving it on a network drive. That was an interesting error, or like an interesting bug that, or not a bug, something we found that interferes with our migration. If you get a SQL exception for a missing table, this is related to how, as Stephanie mentioned, you want to switch to the develop branch and redo your migration. So what you want to do is switch to develop, go through, delete the database that's there, and redo steps 1 through 5. And then if you get this package is missing the required new spec file, we also linked a Microsoft doc that will help you resolve that issue. So from here, you can see the migration still running. We can go ahead and start the other stuff related to the project. We can start up the VPS and the Redis server. So we need the Redis server running to be able to run the VPS. So what I'll go ahead and do is we want to open up our command prompt in administrator mode, and we need 2 of these. So I'll just go ahead and open up 2 command prompts in administrator mode. And on the first one, what you want to do is after you've done the Choco install Redis server or Redis 64, you want to type in your command prompt with administrator mode. You want to type in Redis server and go ahead and click start or enter. And then on the other one, what you want to do is redis-cli-h localhost. So now we have Redis up and running on our local computers. We can go ahead and minimize these out. We can go ahead and start up the VPS because the VPS is a separate project from our web app and web API. So I can go ahead and click start here, but what I want to show is we found from another team, if you click start here, a blank page shows up and it's kind of not easily apparent that the project is up and running. So what you can do is under controllers in the home controller, if you want, you can copy out or comment out this return OK and just return a blank view. And once you've done that, you can click start. That's not required, but it helps show that the project's running. So the VPS project will start up a shell, and it'll also open up Internet Explorer or Chrome browser. And you'll see that it opens up on port 5001. So because we added the view, an empty view, this page shows up. If you just leave return OK, it'll just be a blank page, but that's perfectly okay. Or it might say cannot connect to the file. That's perfectly fine. The VPS should be running. Our data migration has successfully completed. And what I can show is that here, if I query this again, you can see that it went ahead and applied all of the migrations that were listed in our migrations folder of the data access project. Here you can see also, these are the tables that we use in our project. And there's also the stored procedures that are utilized by the trader homepage. So we have get account balance and get account equity. So now that that's okay, what we want to do to start up this project is change the startup project. So here you can only pick from one of these options at a time. What we want to do is set multiple startup projects. So we'll go right click it, click set startup projects, and click on this multiple startup projects. And we want to select effort, we'll click start, and web API, we'll set that to start. We can apply it and click OK. So now that we have the multiple startup projects set, we'll go ahead and click start. And that takes a couple seconds as well. But then eventually we'll see that the effort project is up and running locally on in our development server or development environment. So this launches two Chrome windows. One is 44308 with the API values endpoint. This is our web API. You can see that this localhost page cannot be found. That's fine. That's as expected. This is just the web API that's up and running. And because it doesn't have like an HTML view, it just shows that. But here on port 44376, we show the effort project. So now I can do all the things that I would do on the staging server or in production. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in as a trader. And the password is the same as the administrator. So when I click login, we'll see that on first site, there is no Forex account linked. So we can go ahead and open up our MetaTrader, MetaTrader 5, and we have our demo accounts, or maybe we even created our own accounts. So once this opens up, we're going to go to the inbox, the mailbox, and we'll see a mail here saying new account registration. We want to go ahead and open that up and copy our login ID. This is our Forex ID, and go back to here, link a Forex account. So we want to add this new account. And basically, the Forex account number will be that number we just copied. The password will be this password right here. And the trade server name, because we're using a demo account, will be metaquotes demo. So we can link that account. Now when we go to the home page, we see that this loads up. Basically, in our semester, we've been working with fake data thus far. And since we haven't put any fake data in our database, we don't have any data available. And this is why we see an empty chart. To get around this, what we can do is open up our SSMS, click File, Open, File. We've included a couple of SQL scripts to fill in the database with fake data. So we have this account balance script, and it has a couple values that we insert in our database, and we can click execute. So you see we inserted 2 rows. Another, we also want to do the account equity. So we'll do File, Open, File, Account Equity. So this one is a lot more rows, and it'll take up to maybe 10 seconds to fill in. So while that's doing that, I just wanted to mention that we've successfully started up our project locally. We went through the troubleshooting issues. We did our database migration, and we even showed how to add fake data to the database. We have here in our guide links to other useful resources that we used when we were starting up, and these are basically YouTube videos from previous teams. So we found some of these playlists and videos to be very helpful for us to get started. And so we link them if you want to check them out as well. So that's there as well. This is still executing the query. It's 50 seconds in roughly, but we'll let that do its thing.
You can also show in the database the tables that are getting updated with data.
So that actually finished, but I went ahead and I think I clicked kill instead of wait. Or no, okay. So now when you have the fake data, you can see that the chart loads up and we have both account equity and account balance right here. And so we can do various things here. We can change the graph like colors. So maybe I want this to be white. Click apply, and then we get this nice looking graph, different things such as that. But the purpose of this whole video was to show future developers on the EFVT team on how to get their environment set up. I think that's it, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully you found this guide helpful. And if you have any questions on maybe the setup or anything like that, you can always feel free to send us an email and we can help in any way we can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.